Okay. Economic Development Advisory Committee, regular meeting, calling it to order. Call to order, roll call. Gage? Here. Norma?
Present.
Brian?
Present.
Robin?
Present.
Don?
Here.
Russ? Cole is not here. Has anybody heard from Russ? Okay. Welcome, everyone. Business items, let's just jump right into it. I don't see anybody in the public. Nothing. No non-agenda items. Mr. Williams,
Yes, sir.
comments from you, sir.
I'm good. This is probably my last meeting with you all.
Swan song.
So it's been a pleasure being with you. So I'm taking a break for a little bit. We got new people coming in. We'll figure out who the new liaison will be for economic development and go from there.
Well, we thank you for your service to the committee, Mr. Williams.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo that. In the 3 years that I've been working on the committee, Dave, you've shown great leadership for us and guidance, so much appreciated.
I agree with that.
Here, here. Eric, Mr. Zeno,
Yes, sir.
you're up.
Just a few items, Mr. Chairman. We have, so the city manager has canceled the contract with retail strategies, so retail strategies will not be renewing their contract, this coming fiscal year.
Good.
We have done follow-up emails and phone calls for the 23 retailers that we met at Austin Retail Live, just to get feedback from them. We scheduled our next Black of Appreciation. The mayor had a business that he wanted us to go to, so we get with the mayor and together to get that business name, and we'll be discussing that next Black of Appreciation, which will probably be in November, or at the end of October, whenever the mayor, he's gonna be out a few days too. Our September city sales tax distribution was 77,124. That's down. In August, it was 94,479, which this month, these 2 months, kind of goes down. We get ready for the holidays, and then round back up. December, January, the holidays, so that's not strange, but it did go down from 94 to 77. We're working with the GIS department now to work on some commercial development maps, zoning maps, so we can show where our commercial growth is and our commercial zones is. So we're working with GIS to produce those maps now. I'm also working with the Texas Workforce Division on a small business grant program that they just rolled out, so they're giving some information about that. Maybe some ways we can tap into that small business grant program with them. I think we got on the agenda, I did talk to Cap Card, that she is okay with that. We give her a date. Once we finalize it, I just need to get back with her for her date if we want to go and do that meeting, Mr. Chairman. And I don't know, we got a couple of residential developments. I know Ghost Cross is coming up on the annexation of P&Z. I don't know if you want to touch on any of the residential developments.
Don't know yet.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet.
That's it.
Where is that located?
The Gross Slope. That's not the word that Tracy just told me about.
What was the name again?
Gross Slope.
Gross.
Yeah, I haven't seen the package yet, but it's.
I mean, is it like up by the airport? Is it near, to Sarah?
I think it's closer to
I think
Cicero.
it's what Tracy was just put on it, said it was on the 14th, and she mentioned it this morning, but I thought it was closer to Sarah. It was not by
Yeah,
that.
close to Cicero.
Good.
And Meredith does have, I guess she, that's all I have.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Zeno. We can come back to Meredith.
If it's all right.
Please.
Eric, do you know the year over, do you have a chart with the year over year? So like, we're gonna have seasonal ups and downs on the taxes, but do you, or could you pull the year over year? So in other words, September was 77, so it was down from August, but was it up or down from last year?
Yeah, we put this by here, I can get that.
Okay, thank you.
And the city manager.
Hi. Welcome.
Being late.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We were in another meeting, so. I brought backups.
Meeting.
Does anybody else have questions for Eric? I heard a couple things that he touched on that we're going to be visiting in the discussion items that we can come back to at that point. But anything else? Okay. Meredith.
coming up are our cleanup days, citywide cleanup days, which, I'm looking to make sure here. Getting this right. Correct me if I'm wrong, is Friday, or Thursday, Friday.
Oh, you know, I'm sorry, Meredith, I just remembered, and Eric, I apologize for not pointing this out to you, is we need to be using the microphone up here, even if we need to take it off the stand.
Sure.
We're on stand.
Yes.
She can come up if you, whatever's more convenient for you, Meredith. You can take the microphone over there if you want.
Just pulling it up here. Yes. Okay, so, thank you. The city is holding our citywide cleanup days, which, pulling it up, is Thursday, October 14th, Friday, October 15th, Saturday, October 16th, and I'm trying to get these. So Thursday is from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Friday is the same, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be located right behind the police department, right over here, where we had some storm brush collection in February. There's a list of items that are accepted and are not accepted on our city website. I'm going to be making sure that the advertising promotion for this is going to be constantly on the front of the email or website as we go forward in these next days. We're going to push it even more on Facebook. It is on our city calendar and Facebook pages. We have flyers that are sent out about town asking if you all can share that information. Usual things that we can accept are appliances as long as refrigerant is removed. Freon must be tagged by a professional, however. Plastics, scrap metal, wood, that sort of thing is fine. We cannot accept any brush, limb, or trees. Those items need to be sent to the Green Center, and the Green Center is open every first Thursday and Saturday of the month.
What about paint?
That is the next thing I'm going to mention. Thank you very much. Those are hazardous waste products, and that's sort of more like our BOPATE pickups. That's paint, any sort of oils, waste, chemicals, any gases, tires, that sort of thing. Again, there are many different places on the website that go through this in more detail.
Meredith,
Yes.
the council approved the contract with the recycling company. and
Yes, sir.
I saw that in the flyer, in the water bill. Has there been any feedback to the city, any positive feedback on that? Any?
I have not personally received any. I don't know if Tracy has received any, or Public Works. She's nodding her head, and I'm guessing the feedback has been good so far.
Good.
Yes, feedback has been
Great
good. So we've put flyers in the utility bills for a couple of months now, and that's another push we're going to do with a news article going out, and again, a reminder on our Facebook pages.
Yeah, I was going to, also, could you post it on the city site, website?
Yes, that's a news article going out.
Okay,
Yeah, on the
good.
city website.
Yeah, because I was
Yes.
looking for it the other day, and I went, oh, no, but fortunately, another one came in the water bill, so.
Yes, yes. Usually at the end of October, we have trunk or treat. That's, the police department puts that on, and the library also opens up their doors, and everybody gets to see the police and do their Halloween trick-or-treating in the trunks of the cars. A nice, safe place for all the kids. Since we don't have sidewalks, it's a nice place for all the families in the community to get together as one. This year, COVID concerns, Chief has decided to forego having that again this year, but I am told that the Laga Vista ISD is having it, and although it's not a city-produced event, the city is supporting them, and we will be putting out information about that.
Just where here?
I have just received information about it secondhand today, so I don't yet have all the details. At the high school, at the high school.
Mary, would you please let them know that I think Grace Fellowship was also going to do I'm confident they are, a
Okay.
trunk and treat, but I don't know the dates.
Okay,
Maybe they don't want to, the
right,
two parties
right.
don't want to conflict.
So it sounds like we need to maybe
Yeah.
let each other know and see what's happening.
Right.
Right.
Quick question on the website, the app, the city's app. I think I recall discussion about revisiting the functionality of the app at one point. And I just wonder if it wouldn't be a good idea that if we could get that app working, ideally, shall we say, push notifications once in a while for things like the recycling and stuff would be good.
We just got out of a meeting,
Oh.
and Tracy is an expert on this, so I'll pass the mic.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
So you will recall that during our budget conversations, the council asked us to do away with the city app. It only had about 240 maybe subscribers. A lot of that was because of the functionality and some of it was PR. So we have been looking at another way that we can actually reutilize a different app that does a push notification. We're starting with our website, so we're going to completely redesign our city website. While we go through that, we're going to be talking about the processes with the departments. And then once we go through that process, we'll be looking at pushing out a different app that is correlated with our city website that has several different functions, including bill pay, notification, our parks and trails, several other pieces that we can incorporate all those, and then we will do a huge PR push for both the new website and the new app. So we're trying to encompass all those right now. We don't want to do one before the other. We think the website is really important because depending on some of those push notifications, it may redirect you back to the website. And right now, we don't feel like that website that we're utilizing has a good functionality for that. So we're going to do the website first, talk about the processes, we'll go to the app, and then some of those push notifications will go back to our new website.
Good.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was the short version, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the process.
Cool. What was the time frame on that, on that?
So the new website's going to take about 6 to 9 months. And that's if we do it right, because there's a lot of data that either needs to get pushed from our old or it needs to be recreated. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to be recreating a lot.
Yeah, that was my next question is can the archive, will everything transfer over?
It can. I'm not sure that it needs to. So we need to talk about, I'm afraid that if you take something that's archived and you automatically push it over, you really haven't gone through the exercise enough to say we've touched every page, we've looked, we've made sure that the data's good, we've made sure that everybody knows who's going to be responsible for updating those pages. So at this point right now, I would prefer that we at least review those pages before we tell them to move those over. So we'll go with a demo test site for a little while before we go live. And when we get ready to go live, it'll probably be about 9 months.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Comments?
Yeah. Just a suggestion, and this comes from a sincere desire. In the current website, it's very valuable to be able to go to, to the menus up above and drop down on the business one where you can get like GIS information. You can get the city, the city map, the
Future
boundaries of the city, the future uses of the city, and also the zoning map, as well as another map that's pretty comprehensive that you can get into. And I've been praying for many years that eventually we will have available a map that shows, perhaps indicates where there's water and sewer available in the streets. So that if we can get down to that level, we can say, oh, good, there's likely water and sewer there, because that's a nightmare.
I can give you general areas. We cannot put water and sewer. Homeland Security will not let us divulge that information. And they won't let us divulge it in one place, and they certainly will not let us put it out on our website. So we can give general, like there is water and sewer connections in this general vicinity. I can get you a pretty close, but I cannot tell you where it is. And you can thank the Homeland Security Terrorist Act for that, because they will not allow us to put that out there. So if infrastructure was going to be, and tamper's the nice word, but if it was going to be messed with, they won't allow us. So, and we cannot even keep all that information in one place within our own archive, so that no one person can have all the access. So we have to have several different layers of authority before you can get to it. Yeah.
It's just a major concern when you're dealing with people who want to move to Lago Vista.
I understand completely. I think Homeland Security thinks the bigger concern is, could somebody actually take out our entire water system?
You know,
And in this day and age, I'd like to say that home soil is safe, but I think we all know a little
well,
bit
there's a place in
different from that.
Florida, I think there was under threat of an attack, their water system, and they were able to save it. I can understand that, but it's a major frustration.
I hear you. So that's one of those places that we as city employees can do a better job when you call us, telling you whether or not, as opposed to just sticking it out there on our website.
$100 in 3 or 4 weeks.
Let's
Sorry.
hope not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad you're here. We're just got so many questions for you, Ms. Tracy.
I hope I have the answer.
Because, I know Brian and Robert were not here, do y'all know the city manager?
You do now.
Make sure you introduce you.
Tracy, I'd like to ask, broadband internet, we arranged that introduction with Ed Cerna. Have the two of you circled back to each other since then?
We have not. We have both been in different directions after that
Okay.
meeting. He is in the same circumstance. He cannot tell me where all those things are. It is proprietary, and there are some Homeland Security issues, as we talked about on our meeting. He's going to come and put the map in front of me. The other piece to it is we are all waiting to see what the Senate does as far as the infrastructure.
Right.
So there is ARPA, which is American Rescue Act, American Rescue Relief Act funds. But those are specific to 3 places, one being broadband, but the broadband, you have to be shovel-ready.
Is this the 1.8 million?
Yep.
Okay.
And we are not shovel-ready. So they're putting a lot of emphasis on places where you already have some complete plans put together. Oftentimes, consultants will come in and tell you where the hubs are and how you're going to get redundancy. So there are several different facets that have to go with that. I only know that from being in Arizona. I was the broadband chair for the north area of Arizona and worked with the state and Governor Ducey because he was trying to get redundancy up and down Highway 17 and 290. So Texas is a little bit more in the forethought, and we do a better job at mapping, but we don't do a really good job at giving it to the local level. And so when he comes in, he'll be able to put the map in front of me, and I can see where the concentrations are. We have some topography issues, and those are some of the things that we'll be addressing is, do we go up because you can't go down? And then there's kind of what I like to call the X factor. There's the Elon Musk, who is doing a lot of his own stuff because of the satellites that he has up. And so some of those services will have to be doing some kind of hybrid hodgepodge because of our topography, but we've got some resolutions to some of that we're investigating.
Am I understanding you correctly that to get any kind of allocation from the 1.8 million toward broadband, you would have to have projects shovel-ready?
Yep.
And that's it? There's no,
Yeah.
city can't spend that money to subsidize Charter Communications to come in and
No, and
trench,
so
conduit, nothing?
it's interesting. They're a little bit stricter about the broadband than they are about the water and sewer because we already have water and sewer infrastructure in the ground. And you already have plans in place. And so it's easier for you to get the eligibility for those water and sewer than it is for broadband where you don't already have infrastructure. Believe it or not, up until probably, and Paul, you will attest to this, probably in the last 4 to 5 years, have they seen broadband as a utility and not a convenience. COVID helped skyrocket that,
Yep.
but up until then, it was not considered a utility. So it was one of those things that if you had it, great, and if you didn't, they weren't seeing that like water and sewer and electricity. These days, that's not the case. We all do business from home. We all have things to do, and with the COVID and the teleworking, it has become a necessity. So That's why they're trying to make sure that people are starting to get plans in place, because what they don't want you to do is throw infrastructure in the ground and then it doesn't get lit up. So they want to make sure that where you're throwing the infrastructure is for a good reason, and as they say, blow glass until then you can get customers on the line.
Just to remove any ambiguity, shovel-ready, would you define that as having plans in place or something more?
They want to make sure that you have a plan in place and a model. So in other
In
words,
place and model.
if we were putting it here in Laga Vista, they want to know that either Cedar Park, there's going to be some redundancy, so there's going to be some backhaul, or somebody else. Since we're kind of at the end of the line, so to speak, they're going to wait and see what actually comes towards us. We can start working on things, but we better have a good plan as to where we're tying in and where we're going back to if for some reason our infrastructure was cut, which is our biggest problem out here. And so those plans are going to be real important for them to actually do the funding. We have water and sewer already in the ground. We know where those things are. We know where we're actually trying to expand, add on, where the growth is. So it's a little bit easier to find that to be an eligibility. And that water and sewer, those projects are pretty expensive as opposed to working as what they call PPP, private partner, entity. So, yeah, so those are the types of things that they're looking for. Do you have a partner? Is there somebody else helping? Because we, as a city, we're not going to run that type of utility. I do not want to get into the fiber business at all.
If you don't mind, our eyes light up when we see ka-chink, a million or 18 million or
1.8.
1.8.
whatever available, but I would like to see if we can get some sort of clarification. You may not have this clarification. I think that the main concern of the Senate and everybody that's trying to push this infrastructure thing is to get basically high-speed internet, what they consider to be high-speed internet, to areas that are not served. And that's one of the main priorities. And at least here in Texas, the belief has been in the Governor's Council that high-speed internet for the rural areas is 25 megabits down. And that just has nothing to do with us. We're already way above that. So the funds that are available, would they be available to us who already have more than what the government considers to be high-speed internet?
So those funds available would be where you don't have those types of speeds.
That's what I thought.
And that's why the mapping is so important. That's why the plan is so important. So those are the things that they want to make sure. Keep in mind that 1.8, we went to council during the budget process. We talked about several CIP projects. We have a 1.8 water sewer expansion that needs to happen because of the growth. So they made some decisions, and that is considered in the funding source for that. Having said that, broadband is still one of those things on the forefront. And when we do strategic planning with the council, that is one of the places where we'll be asking for some real feedback as to how they want to do that. It would go into a work plan. We would put some action items to that so we know exactly how we're going to move forward. But that it would be done in that fashion so it could be a consensus of the council and the staff would know the direction they need to go.
Very good. Thank
To
you.
confirm, so to come up with the work plan and the model, you need direction from council requesting that, and then you would develop the work plan and then,
Exactly,
Execute.
because more than likely,
okay.
when you do a broadband plan like that, you're going to want a consultant. You want somebody that is unbiased to providing the service, but will tell you what is necessary to make the hubs. So there are several different levels as we are talking about. So you've got the people that can put the infrastructure in and the people that can provide the service. And then there's the people that are going to operate and maintain it. We don't want to be in any of those. We want to make sure that we get everything ready. And if the infrastructure goes in the ground, the federal government will give that to a local entity. And after that point, you have to have a partner. So you have to have a plan for after that. We're nowhere near that. So those are the things that we would be asking council. Give us some ideas so that we can come back and say, well, here's how this needs to go. And then there's a budgetary item that goes with that. If you're hiring a consultant,
Right.
that would be discussed during next year's budget so that we know exactly what we're trying to do. So one goes into the other.
That
You
was
get a
the next
work plan
question.
first, and you get the budget, and then we move forward.
So the consultant next year budget, what can this committee do between now and then? to help move this along?
The best thing that you can do is support, because there will come a time when we're going to need some information, and we'll probably be coming to this committee and asking what knowledge you have, some feedback for it. But quite frankly, the highest, because it is a budgetary item, it will go to the council.
Sure.
We would just need, and we've done this before, where there would be letters of support saying that if we were applying for any other grant funds or any other ability to get other funding, we would need that type of letter of support from you.
Wonderful. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, under actions items, agenda item number 4, consideration and possible action regarding a request to Shelley Hargrove, Director, Community and Economic Development of CAPCOG, to attend an EDAC meeting potentially in November to ascertain benefits that might be of help to our local businesses and our mission as the Economic Development and Advisory Committee. Any discussion?
Well, if I can open this up.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chair. I would like to say that is driven a little bit from me on my side, because I recognize that there's quite a few monies that come through the capital area council, through workforce initiatives, small business initiatives. So, for example, and I'll help Eric talk a little bit more maybe about the Texas Workforce Commission. A lot of those monies come through CAPCOG and then dispersed. So I'll say this has been a few years, but I used to help a lot of small businesses have either matching or internship grants or all. Usually I could add about $50,000 to an average small business to their bottom line if they had a few employees. It looks like that there's additional funding that's available. So I think some of the things that we have been talking about in terms of assisting our local businesses and initiatives that they wanted could be helped by having some of these funds, or at least this knowledge set available to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I was wanting to see if if EDAC would entertain and consider saying, yes, let's bring in at least the economic development representative from CAPCOG to kind of let us know what's available to our community. At this point, I would like to ask Eric, if you don't mind telling us a little bit. I know you've met Shelley from CAPCOG, or some of the interactions that you've had with them.
Shelley virtually, and I think in the beginning of my comments on the.
Microphone.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to make you get up, Eric.
Sorry about that.
Yes, I did speak with CapCod and Shelley, virtually with Shelley, since this was an action item. She said that her calendar was available some in November, but since it was an action item, once we give a potential date for her to come, she would be glad to look at her calendar, see if she could be available in November to come.
Awesome.
Is it, Norma, do you know, or does anybody, is it their subcommittee? Is she a representative of one of the subcommittees, like the Capital Area Economic Development Subcommittee of CAPCOG?
Right. Well, she's the director over the small business
Acronym.
community engagement. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit. So she would be kind of like Ed Cerna is with
it.
Spectrum, kind of a guide
A
for
liaison.
your liaison, right, to help guide as far as I understand it. Now, I'm going to say again, my knowledge and workings of the COGS over the U.S. It's been a few years, quite a bit has changed in terms of how they put monies out and track them and the grants and things like that. And so that's why I thought it does get a little bit, if you know it, there's an abundance of help that you don't realize. If you don't know it, then you're really missing out. And our community could really do well if we knew some of this. So essentially, she would be a liaison, and she'd be able to kind of talk about what's available and maybe some examples of what other communities have done, which is really kind of interesting. It will tie in with, and love to hear a little bit more about the Texas Workforce Commission, because those monies, do come through many times through the CapCog to the Texas Workforce Commission, and then it goes out, to the local communities. So once we have a nice liaison at CapCog and we've opened that discussion, there's actually broader than just, that there's workforce initiatives, there's small business initiatives, there's other items that, may be on the table, even through the, I think it was ARRA, right? The recent funding that the federal government has put out for the Recovery Act. There may be things there too that we could, but, at this point, we're just guessing unless we got a person to help guide us with that. So,
I imagine we could ask her a lot of questions.
yes, we could, yes. So, does anyone else?
Anything?
Yeah, when I saw the agenda item, I took a quick peek at the CapCog website, and quite frankly, I was amazed at the diversity of service areas that they're involved in. So, I would be 100% supportive of us bringing in this particular representative to deal with the scope of work that this committee's involved in, but I think CapCog's probably got a lot of areas beyond economic development that they could provide local assistance on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a list of their subcommittees right now. Aging Advisory Council, Solid Waste Advisory Committee, Criminal Justice Advisory Committee, Geographic Information Systems Planning Council, goes on. So I would like to see that occur. Would anybody like to make a motion on that, if there's no more discussion?
Well, I'd like to make a motion, if I may, that we go ahead and invite Shelley Hargrove, or ask Eric to invite Shelley Hargrove to our November meeting and see if she has the opening on her agenda to give us a presentation and start that communication.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Question, if she's not available on that day, would you like me to try to schedule another day in November, or switch it to the December meeting?
Okay.
Push to the December meeting.
Has everybody read the minutes? Has anybody not read the minutes? Does anybody have any recommendations, any changes they want to see in the minutes?
Fine.
No? We get a motion for approval of the minutes, please.
I'll move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. I don't think that deserves the gavel, but.
Come on, you wake people up to this.
Just make a lot of noise.
I like that.
Make it look.
You know,
I jumped.
okay, discussion items. Actually, let me just sign this real quick. I'll let you finish that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The discussion, I don't know if you want to continue with the business items, because you have the chamber executive director, you need an update from her, she did a representation on her.
I'm sorry, Jennifer. I'm following my agenda here, and I guess I looked at. Jennifer, we'd love to hear what's going on with the chamber.
Well, right now, I actually stopped in and talked to Meredith. We will be putting on to bring in just some tourist money, a beer fest in coincides with the Point and Venture POA, not Point Venture, the POA's craft show. And with the funds collected from there, we will be starting a Go Local or I Buy Local campaign with the local businesses in the area with window clings, but really explaining the importance of buying local. I've been speaking to Meredith about it, and making sure that people understand the tax dollars and what stays in the community when they spend money in the community. And also highlighting during Small Business Week, I started it was kind of actually with what they were doing, but a My Business Why. So we'll be starting that up with the local businesses because they are mostly local and small businesses that are family-owned, so people can get to know the people behind the business. So we'll be starting that campaign during the Go Local. So they really, again, understand the importance of what the tax money that we spend, the sales tax, and why it needs to stay local and in the area. Because I don't think a lot of people realize the impact that it has on us.
Great.
So those are the two things that we have on the agenda getting started right now.
Awesome. Question, Jennifer, would you like to be added to future agenda items? I mean, like a business items where the liaison speaks, Eric, do you want to be a part of that?
I would like to be added on because, those kind of my words of this year
We
were.
very much like it.
The buzz and also making sure that we're adding value, not only to the city, but to the residents and the businesses. So I know, I've talked to Eric and Meredith about that, but that's really what I want to make sure that we are working together.
Fantastic. Don?
If I'm not mistaken, that Beer Fest is also going to be on November 13th, right?
Yes,
So you have the bazaar going on in the morning, and then you phase over to the Beer Fest, so it'll be an intense day of fun for all, huh?
Yes, and usually we really don't have much going on in November. And we actually, Liquid Thrills, there will be a ferry because we'll be at the campgrounds to Bar K. So they will kind of boat people back and forth.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, and just really, and with that also all the nonprofits. So I've invited Keep Lago Beautiful, Starry Nights, as well as Jonestown, because it is the North Shore Beer Fest. But really bringing in those different communities, because I'm hoping it's I guess the dynamics of who will be coming to the Beer Fest. We're really hoping to hit those 25 to 40-year-olds that I don't think are involved in the community as much as they need to be. So that's going to give the opportunity for those, the Lions Club, the Women's Club, all those different entities within the community, and so they can get involved as well. Because I think we're lacking that.
Since we're going to have a new craft beer location up the hill, might that be a great opportunity for them to?
So that's kind of how we started it and
Great.
the idea, but they are actually unable because of their licensing, but they will be there to do T-shirts and different prizes.
Cool. All right.
So, yeah, so they gave us a couple breweries to come on out that will be joining us, but they are unable to because
Okay.
of licensing.
That'll be great to promote them, so. Good.
That was kind of the reasoning behind it, so.
Super.
We all know that we lack commercial overnight accommodations in Laga Vista, but there are a lot, having people, bringing in the outside dollars instead of just circulating local dollars helps to grow the local economy.
And then when you come out here, they're going to come back.
Right. And,
It's getting them out here.
I think it would be good if people could stay the night. And if, I think really it's just a lot of VRBOs out here, Airbnbs. And
Actually, I have between the three areas, there's over 400 between Point Venture, Lago, and Jonestown.
is there, if there's any external marketing material to go outside of, any of the marketing material, maybe somehow finding a way to put that in there, let people know, come stay.
Stay, exactly.
Could put it like as a experience on Airbnb or whatever, you can advertise those experiences.
Most definitely.
That'd be really great. Quick question, Meredith, from our last meeting, how are the volunteers for Lago Fest, how are we doing on the recruitment? Sorry, I didn't mean to, it was a quick aside, Jennifer, you stay on standby.
Well, to give you a little information before I answer that, there's a software out there that I'm looking at, which is an all-inclusive events and festival software platform that would allow us to work on getting sponsors, volunteers, artists, musicians. It would allow us to measure sponsorship activation, put out contracts that volunteers would need to sign, information about how to volunteer, all sorts of things. And it's a permission level platforms so we can have different department heads from the festival manage different areas. We can also export to Excel spreadsheets. Now we're talking free versus a paid, monthly paid version. But what we can do with this software is use it for any and all events. One could be for Lago Fest, one could be for any other event we have in the city, and then one could be specifically just for volunteer recruitment. In the past, for Lago Fest, we've used Sign Up Genius with a simple link from the website, but I am nearing the end of really searching through this particular software program and seeing if there's anything else out there that can compare, and then working on whether the pricing can fit or if I can go with the free version. But if I can make this work, then volunteer recruitment for anything that we have going on in the city would be much easier, much more effective.
You know, I think, when you sign up for something, you're accountable to that commitment, and having something like that would be great. Is that covered by the budget? I mean, do we have the money for that? Or does it have to go to a next year's budget? How does that work?
We could have the money for it potentially. I would just have to see how much it is for exactly what I want,
Okay.
and then look and see where we could use that money
Okay.
or take that money, which budget, essentially.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Meredith.
That answer your question?
Yes,
Anything
ma'am.
else? Okay.
Unless anybody else wanted to expound on anything. Jennifer, thank you.
I'm back.
Does anybody have questions or comments for Jennifer? If not, I've got a few more.
Uh-oh.
Could you touch on the next luncheon? I think somebody we know is going to be speaking.
Yes, make sure that you come out. It's going to be next Wednesday, the 20th, and Tracy will be speaking. I was giving her time to get her feet wet before I invited her out, so she'll be out next Wednesday for the luncheon.
Great. What was I going to ask you? Now it escapes me. I'm sorry.
And then we do have the ribbon cutting on Thursday.
That's what it was. Hope.
For the Hope Center. So it's Thursday, 4 o'clock. We chose a Thursday, there's no meeting. So it'd be great to see everyone out there. Just really, again, it's making sure that we're welcoming when new businesses, nonprofit and things come into town.
And I think the Hope Center, I believe last meeting we discussed a new polling location. Is that right, Meredith? We have a new polling location this year?
Oh, yes.
In the minutes, I think it was, I saw the word
Church.
Hope. It's North Lake Church, I think?
That's who it's with.
Okay.
Jennifer, I know that you've had the opportunity to run around with Eric to visit the businesses. I was going to say, I'm going to put her on the spot this time, Eric. How's that? I was going to ask, can you tell me, I really am just really interested in the insights, in terms of what's working for them, what their challenges are. Has there been anything just really interesting that stood out for you?
Not really. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I know we went to visit Wild Navy, Susie, which of course is opening the candy store. So she was having some issues, and it really wasn't the city permitting, it was also with the business, the village, with it being sold or in the process of trying to be sold, just them being up to code. So she was just having issues with that. Other than that, I think everyone enjoyed us coming in and talking to them together. And again, it was coming in as a joint force that we're here for them, that we can help them on city side and and with the chamber. So I didn't hear anything negative besides, but again, that really even wasn't city, it was more of fire. And it was codes that were not up to date within the building.
Okay, all right.
Were there any businesses looking to add headcount or do more investment, capital investments?
Not at that time. We had, we stopped at the village, so it was Anytime Fitness who would be opening, I think maybe the next week. I think they opened up the CBD shop, again, within the first 3 or 4 months of opening, and then Wild Navy who just expanded and then opening a new store.
That was our first time in her, so
Yeah.
we beat out this meeting with
to kind of schedule
Okay.
again, because we really enjoyed it, and I think, just going out and talking to people, and again, seeing that we're together and we're here, so they have two people that are, that are fighting for them and seeing what they need and providing that.
That's good.
If there is anybody looking to add employees and invest, make capital investments, there's the Texas Enterprise Zone project designations, which provides a state-level sales tax refund to qualifying entities. So nothing comes out of Lago's pocket, but, that's a really good program. It's all state money.
Okay,
So it's just something to keep in mind if y'all hear about anybody
job.
looking.
wanting to expand.
What's the name of it again?
It's the Texas Enterprise Zone project. It's a designation.
Mr. Chairman, so, and also, how did it, I didn't throw back, Brad, how did they do with the stressful areas? You have to, is it a criteria?
Yeah, you have to, the business has to apply for it, but the local city, the local jurisdiction needs to nominate them for it. So, it's something that we really need to work closely with.
Okay.
Let's just jump, I'm going to move the agenda around. Let's just jump straight into 10 so we can keep talking about this.
Okay, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, yeah, it's a great program. Again, like I said, it's not local, it's not like a 380 agreement where local sales tax is leaving the city. It's state level sales tax. So, any investment that a business does in the city, I think the state will refund them up to $2,500 per job created. Or you can also qualify if they maintain a job as well. But like I said, it does take some partnership between the city and the business. So I don't know if y'all are planning on visiting, like, I guess maybe some of the people that I would consider, kind of primary job creators or skilled labor, or whatever. Yeah, I don't know who we have in the city exactly. But it's always something to, they may not be aware of that, and that's a great program that we can talk to them about.
Brian, when I looked into the Texas Enterprise Zone, the Chapter 380, I just did some quick cursory searches. I found that they, if I understood it correctly, they give grants, but in order to get that grant money and have it given out to businesses, you need to have a established program. The city needs to make sure that its charter allows for the distribution of grants. And you have to have ordinances to that effect.
On the 380s?
No.
Or the-
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I was on the Charter Review Committee. Nothing from my recollection pertaining to our charter. I don't know of anything that prohibits this, but I don't know of anything authorizing the city to give out grants. Do you know, Tracy?
As far as the city authorizing giving out grants, so we,
To businesses for economic development, basically.
I don't know of anything right off the top. I do know that they did some of that during the COVID relief. So the mayor devised a
The Laga
program
bucks.
for, people to go and get gift cards and then utilize those in our local communities. We'd have to put a policy together, just like the city of Laga Vista has a policy, so that if our city departments were actually applying, so that council knows where we're applying and where we're spending those dollars and sending those funds out. I suspect there'd be some sort of policy that we would probably need to put in place, just so that we're treating everybody fairly. And there's a place that the businesses know where they can go, so that they can see what the requirements are and how the money is dispersed.
I think I recall reading that they were very specific about having the way this works is it also sets up a database that you report to. And the language they used, the verbiage was very specific. It was the economic development agreements. Now, I don't know if that pertains to an economic development agreement between their entity and the city, or more germane to an economic development corporation.
Yeah, that law was just from this last session. the 380 agreements, there's a public database now that,
Yep.
all the cities have to file their 380 agreements. I was under the impression that we already had one or two 380s, 380.
We do.
380s, yeah.
And you were correct, this last session, so legislation put in place, and they're still in their third legislation, but they put in, so any of those 380 agreements, you have to be very transparent, so you have to put in there. The reasoning for that is they want to know locally who's giving out funds so that the state is not stepping on any toes, first of all, but they're also not duplicating the process, which was part of the problem that the legislators were kind of battling about was, are we duplicating the process? So somebody is getting a lot of money back from sales tax in the community, and then they're also applying for the state sales tax. So they're trying to kind of figure out that process for them. So you do have to tell on a database the 380 agreements that we have. We have two, I believe, and possibly a third one coming on board.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna quit coming if y'all make me work this hard.
I'd like to jump, just because it was one topic ago, we were talking about it with the Beer Fest. I still can't get the movie out of my head every time I hear that name, if y'all have seen it. Agenda item number 12, discuss ideas regarding destination events, festivals with further discussion to support Meredith with Lago Vest. We kind of covered the Lago Vest just a moment ago with Meredith, but with Jennifer in our chamber, bringing in those outside dollars and having anchors in the community that give people a reason to want to be here and hang out, especially to that younger demographic that we want to stay and not leave, that we want to attract. I'd like to see more discussion happen pursuant to identifying maybe some type of a monthly thing or a quarterly festival, if you will, or some other type of event. Starry Skies, Tracy made reference to that a moment ago, or you did. And I was at that this past weekend. It was a pretty good little turnout. Just a rough guess, I'd say a conservative estimate, probably 50 people. And, you really could see the rings on Jupiter.
Okay.
Thank you. And it was really nice. It was nice. It was family friendly. And, for the first time doing something like that, you get to the second and third occasion, you're up to 300 people, 400 people. You bring in vendors, things like that. So how any ideas, guys, on how to actually do something more than just talk about how nice this would be? How do we put together, how do we do this? Should we talk with Parks and Rec? Should we talk with, who, besides, talk to me. Who's got some ideas?
I have a question.
Sure.
So there is this conversation that we were going to have a big party for my husband, and we couldn't figure out how to do it and have any place to come stay overnight. So we're doing it at another family near Marble Falls because people can go and stay overnight. So if there is all these 400 various places, how do people know them? What's the process of letting people, we want to come to Lago Vista for the weekend. How do they know that there's a place that you actually can stay overnight? Because I've never seen a brochure that says, here it is, and here's what you can do.
So, this will be, I guess I need to cover up with my chamber, but y'all know, it was a year ago that I launched lagoliving.com, and now it's up to, I have about 200 visitors.
Jennifer,
280
microphone.
visitors a day. But it has the different Airbnbs on there, so they can rent from there. And so, that's one thing. And also, it's going on, if there is a festival, they will go on and check out the Airbnb. And maybe it's reaching out to those, because I believe y'all would have a list, because I'm assuming y'all are getting taxes. So, and reaching out to them when we are having a festival and maybe having them live, maybe instead of a 3-night minimum, it is only a 1-night or a 2-night, and they're aware of it. So we're helping them and they're helping us. So when the visitors come down, maybe they do only stay for 1 night, and they also know, hey, they have a festival. Guess what? I can raise my prices a little bit. So it's something that we could work together with and letting them know when we do have an event. So they can lower that minimum to an extent.
Maybe there could be a link, Meredith?
Like
the
on the
website.
page. And linking it to the Airbnb. I mean, you're linking it onto that. Because the main thing is, they come here, we just need to show them how to spend their money.
Yeah. And our hotel died, so we
Yeah,
need
it
to
did, didn't it?
Right, because it's a disappointment.
Speaking of the tax on the Airbnbs and the VRBOs, how is the compliance on that? Are they?
We just talked about that at the last city council meeting.
Maybe you can get more money for
So it's a low-hanging fruit, but it is not easy to get compliance. We've been utilizing a system that was supposed to tell us who and help us pull out data. They have been zero efficient for us, so we're going to terminate that contract. And then we're hoping that we're going to do some own recognizance of our own and try to get some compliance. They know they need to pay it. It's just a matter of you just got some bad actors.
Have we, and I don't know if there's a minimum for the city or whatever, but I have an Airbnb in Galveston, and now all 3 of the major, the VRBO,
Airbnb, yep.
and TripAdvisor, they all collect the city tax on my behalf and remit it, so I don't even have to do that anymore. Is there?
Are we getting
possibility
So
of doing
we
that
are
in
getting
Laga?
some of that. Some choose not to even let them know, and they're staying very silent on those issues. It's getting some of those 3 sites to actually be very proactive in doing that. We know that if we find out that they're not paying the tax, then we will actually make some effort to get them to do it, but they have to remit it. So if they don't register under those 3 sites to remit it on their behalf, so I equate this to if you get your taxes and your insurance paid through your mortgage company, you have to tell them that is what you want to do. You had to tell them to remit that on your behalf. Some of these small places are not doing that, and if they aren't, then it's not getting remitted immediately. So those are the people that we're trying to designate, find, and get our money out of. It's not an easy thing to do when you don't have a lot of resources, and we don't have a lot of resources right now to do that. So that's why we were depending on that report to do it. And like I said, it was a zero effort, benefit. So we were spending a whole lot of time and effort trying to get data out of that report. They said that they would provide us a lot of things, and they didn't. So there's been a whole lot of back and forth with them. So we've decided that it's easier if we terminate and put our resources somewhere else.
I recall, I think the number was a year-over-year increase, and I think you said it was around, I want to say $30,000 or $40,000 in revenue?
That's sales tax not directly coming from just those hot funds. So our hot funds, those are 2 different things. So sales tax, we've had that increase. Hot funds are where that's hotel occupancy tax. A lot of those, so some of those we can actually collect through the Airbnbs and those types of things because it's heads and beds, which help us for the marketing for the Laga Fest and for the beer festivals and entertainment and making sure that people see, what we have going on. 2 different taxes, but our sales tax was up. It's just like staying at a hotel. So you pay city tax, you pay sales tax, and then you pay a hotel occupancy. That's how they would branch those out, and those all get remitted to the state differently.
For your information,
And I'm way in the weeds.
For your information, Planning and Zoning Commission is dealing with this problem too. We're wrangling with how to rewrite, the code dealing with short-term rentals. And
You're
it
exactly
ain't
right.
easy.
It's on Thursday's agenda
Yep.
again.
Yeah, it goes from month to month. That with the input from several members, the city attorney is trying to work everything together, and it should be discussable pretty soon. But we're in that process.
Good. Anybody else? Thank you again, Tracy.
Just a comment or a thought that just came to mind as you were talking, Tracy, and throwing this out there with the, okay, I don't know who or when because we have capacity constraints. But I am thinking if we're working with the local Airbnb and Verbo, the people that are really trying to do it right and support the community, then, the other side of that is that we're supporting them as well.
Bring 'em into
They
the
will
fold.
be highlighted on our festival pages, I think. And so potentially maybe that could be a win-win, yeah.
Meredith?
When I first took over Lago Fest, it was sort of a redesign of the very first year, which was, so the Lions Club came out, there were hot dogs, that sort of thing, and we decided to turn it into more of a organized, more professional festival. One of the things that I did want to add is to promote the idea of a staycation. A lot of people in Austin, friends of mine, always ask, where are you from? Answer, Lago Vista, where is that? I explain it. They're astounded. You live on a lake with what? So that was part of the website on Lago Fest to try to get people out here. So it's adding all the amenities, all the activities that are in this area, in the North Shore area, not just in Lago Vista. But one of and the website is currently being redesigned and updated. But that's one of the things that I want to work with Jennifer to make sure that we get links to listings for possible overnight stays. When I send out communications to sponsors, artists, musicians, I always add that information because we do have people coming from as far as Victoria to take part. Yeah, Victoria, Midland,
Wow.
that sort of thing, to take part in the festival. And I have had comments from quite a few people recently who are looking to buy property out here and who already have moved out here. So just another way of promoting.
Thank you, Meredith.
Just going back to the Airbnb and the tax compliance, have we thought about doing like a tax amnesty program for people that we think are non-compliant?
We have not considered that yet.
I mean, that might be some of the hesitancy for them to not start collecting because they're scared that we're going to go back on them.
Might. I can't speak for them, but that is a consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Good point. Good point.
Agenda item number 6, update from Gage Hunt and opportunity for input from our committee regarding the process for devising a plan to build new city government offices. Mr.
I'm glad our city manager and Councilman Williams are here, and Don, who joined me on that. So please feel free to jump in and edit my comments however you feel appropriate. I want to reemphasize what a deliberate process this is. This is not looking at two options and saying it's either A or B. When you've got a situation where you're trying to evaluate a whole series of potential scenarios on what we might do, it's very very deliberate in terms of making sure that you're evaluating all of the scenarios on an apples-to-apples basis. If you included cost item A in scenario 1, did you include that in scenario 4? And that's what we're going through right now. October was a very busy month, and so we did not have as much activity on the project as we have in the past, but I think things are about to gear back up. But that's essentially where we are, and it's really not at a point for much discussion outside the subcommittee that's working on it because we just don't have all of the numbers and scenarios assessed at a level that you could have meaningful discussion about them. So if you guys want to add.
I'm deferring.
We were both looking at the short term and the long term, okay? But our focus was on short term. okay? Because long-term, that process that he said, that's long-term. But we have a situation where we have a city hall that needs some work done to it. So we had to figure out how to make that work for the short term. So for the short term, council is going to see on the 21st, the different options that we have for short term, okay? So long term, that's going to be something we do moving forward as a committee. But this, we visited all the available space in Laga Vista that was available. We looked at modular buildings. We looked at all those different options. So there were 7 different locations of buildings that were available in the modular home. We looked at lease versus rent. We looked at financing. We've looked at all the different options, and so we're going to spell it out to council and let them decide on which way would work for the short term. And then the new council can working on the long term with City Hall. But these people are, this building is having major problems with, the air conditioner caught on fire last week while we were out of town.
Wait, you talking about the one over in the police station?
No.
Oh, this one here?
This building. So, at least Ed was still here at the time, so we were able to get the fire engines out here and get that air conditioner turned off. So, we looked at health concerns in this building. So we've looked at all the different options. The only option that has, where we can move everybody out is the modular building on the land that we have over here. All the other ones are 5,000, 5,800 square feet, so we would have to move a portion of the people out, and we would still have to have people in this building. That makes the cost of everything go up significantly. So we're trying to figure out how to move people out and be able to bring in professionals to look at the walls, knock some walls down, see what we have to do to fix this building, and then see what those options are. So,
Ms. Williams, Gage, Don, are the short-term solution, is that the modular accommodations, are those for purchase or for rent?
no, we looked at it from a lease standpoint at
Lease,
first.
okay.
And then we were able to find where we could finance it, and at the end of the either the 48 months or the 60 months, we would own the modular building. And it could be used elsewhere, or we could just turn it into a community center. It'd be on this square right here. We'd get the power lines put underground, and you'd have your little town square that people always want to talk about, having a town center.
Yep.
So that would be right here, because we own the land right over there. So we'll see what council decides to do. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Yay, town center.
We know how the community feels about leasing, so.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Okay.
You know, I'm of the opinion that, the city, in terms of, it definitely needs a lot more square footage for City Hall. Do you have a number? Have y'all looked at how many more square feet are actually needed? Is it like 10,000 more, 20,000?
9,000.
So, one of the things that we did initially with the staff is to find out what their needs were over the next 5 years.
Okay.
We considered short-term from 2 to 5, or 2 to 4, depending. I'm probably going to be 2 to 4, but by then you should have an idea on what you want to do with City Hall, and budget the appropriate money that you need to build the City Hall. But the square footage that we came up with that we totally need was 14,000. So that's the total number,
14,000.
14,000.
Thank you. That was the number I was looking for.
All right? Anything else? Can I go back to festivals real quick?
Yes, please.
Just for 1 second. You know, when Meredith and I worked on Laga Fest, it seemed like it was just me and Meredith working on this and trying to build it up, and then we found some volunteers and we took it to the next level, and then, you know, I found the food trucks and that took it to another level. Then we found bigger artists to attend. So each year it's been a growing thing. If you're looking at doing festivals on a smaller scale, it still requires a lot of work. And it's not something that the city or the chamber could take on to just do festivals. It'd be
Gotcha.
hard. So, but we have a lot of activity here in Laga Vista. We have the Lions doing a tournament. We got the Hill Country Singers. We need to turn the things that we already have and actually build those up
Amplify them.
and amplify those.
I like that.
I think that would work better than trying to start a festival from scratch. And then you could get, you know, if like you have casino night coming up, don't you? So, all right. So if you were trying to get outside people to come to casino night, you'd have to get the B&Bs to promote it on their website. Say, hey, we got a big casino night. Come hang out with Laga Vista, something like that. Or if your Hill Country Singers are doing a big thing, maybe have one particular night where it's just for outside people to attend. You know, so you have the neighborhood attending,
Sure.
and then just make it for an outside group to attend.
Excellent, excellent
So
suggestions.
that will help.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Agenda item number 7, report from strategy leads on the following. Norma, support existing businesses. Russ, recruit new businesses. Gage and Don, develop local infrastructure. Brian, recommend government policies and programs. Robin, promote, advocate Laga Vista. Norma, what say you?
I'm going to say that we covered a lot of, some of the stuff that was already in here. But I am going to say that I reiterated last time that a big part of the value with our committee is the research and know-how, I think as Tracy alluded to. And so I'm not prepared to bring up some things because it's not on the agenda, but I looked at other economic development advisory committees and going, what are they doing that has big impact and doesn't take a lot of resources? Or can we copy what they already have going on, and shorten the process to have something up and running? So, one of those is the town of Silverthorne, Colorado. They've got a neat grant program rolling. Of course, as we've discussed today, there's background stuff that we have to help put into place for such an initiative like that. But I think really being able to bring a little bit of help right when our small businesses are looking to expand, could have a tremendous impact. And really love that we have, Eric and Jennifer. I mean, everybody is in the same room and we're all talking and coordinating. And I just think that that's going to continue to evolve, and I'm excited to see that roll out. So with that, that is my report for this round, or thoughts maybe is a better way to say it.
I'd like to make sure Tracy gets a copy of this before you leave. Russ is not here. Gage and Don, develop local infrastructure. Any comments?
I thought we had a great discussion on the broadband piece earlier in the meeting. Don, if there's anything you want to add?
Go ahead. Well, I don't feel like we have a great deal to add right now. I think you two had a meeting with the Spectrum folks earlier, and you could probably inform on that. I'd just like to sort of point out that basically all of this, the initiative, the broadband initiative on the part of the federal government, which is pushing down to us, to the state and then to us, there are four things that the federal government is trying to attain. First of all, it's get internet everywhere and have it basically, they say future-proof, okay? And that's a big job, and their goals are lower than what we actually have right now, okay? So as a result, I'm not so sure how much we will be able to claim, of that sort of money. We probably have to look elsewhere. The second initiative is that they want to be able to subsidize low-income Americans so that they also can participate in the internet. And thirdly, they're trying to reform the Universal Service Code. In 2010, they came out with a major plan, a major project to make America the internet leader, okay? And so this is like a renewal or a refurbishment of that plan. And so that particular plan had a lot to do with the Universal Service Code and everything like that.
Don, if I may, the Universal Service Code, I believe that's the itemized charge assessment on the landline.
Actually, no, this is it has to do with access and adoption of internet and everything. And then the fourth thing is to fund training and literacy so that everybody knows how to use it and what to do with it and everything. So there are a lot of initiatives that have been introduced in the Texas legislature that are sort of working themselves through. I think what we need to do if we want to do something out here is to figure out what's reality, Do we have access to those funds that may or may not be flowing in? If we don't, then we're barking up the wrong tree. We need to figure out a different strategy. And, that's sort of what we three have been talking about. And, that's basically it. It's kind of frustrating, infrastructure-wise, not to know where city water and city sewers are, as well as internet connections. Because, those three, that's very difficult. We're sort of hamstrung, but I think that we can, at least with, we know that our major provider here is Spectrum for internet service, and you can enter an address on their website and generally find out whether it's available. So that at least we can do. So, I don't know if we could get them to, I'm sure not from what Tracy said, I don't think we could get them to print out a list of addresses, yes and no, it's not available.
He said that he'd meet with Tracy and
But
share that
just
information.
to share it with her,
Right.
that's it. Yeah.
Brian, are you aware of any of the pending legislation that Don alluded to coming out of the state legislature?
No, I haven't been following, but I normally follow tax stuff.
Okay.
This is interesting.
Don, is there anything else you'd like
That's
to add?
it.
Do we know, how much percentage of Lago is covered, not covered by internet? Or-
Actually, I think right now, Gage, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a pretty good percentage.
It's covered?
The problem is how much of it is covered by the internet speeds that we believe are bare minimums. So, my guess is, and I can't say this officially, but my guess is that probably just about everyone would have access through their phone lines to AT&T DSL speed internet, which is 6.67 or something like that on downloads. I'm sorry, uploads. Download speed, sorry.
It's about,
Download speed.
about
And
70 down.
And it's less than, what's that?
So I think it's about 70 down,
No, not DSL.
even less.
DSL is 6 or 7.
Oh, Lord.
And less than 1 on upload. The problem is, as Tracy mentioned, we've got a lot of terrain issues. And in a good chunk of the town, we currently require all the utilities to be underground. And that's what AT&T is balking on. Spectrum did invest in expanding their systems, which actually have a base speed of 200 megabytes as opposed to 6 or 7. Did invest when they partnered with us, about 18 months ago on the water project, and expanded their network. But even their network has got a lot of gaps in it. And so it will be on one street and not on the next street over. And again, back to Tracy's updates, that's part of what we have to do is work through that and get past those cost barriers that are a function of dealing with the topography and underground runs.
Gosh, you know, with our topography here and some of the high elevations that we have up near the airport, you'd think it'd be a great location for a big 5G tower or something.
Yep, that's another,
And you can relay that on all
Another
the high
topic.
points, but,
it's another topic.
yeah. All right. Brian?
So we talked about some of the enterprise zone stuff earlier. No other large updates on my side.
Okay. Robin?
I have a couple of little stories, okay? When the cost of housing became so great in Austin, a lot of families are moving to Laga Vista and in this area because they're affordable houses compared to there. And a lot of those are families with young kids. So there are a lot of kids coming into the school system. And so there was, and I'm not exactly sure when this happened, but when there was a thing with the Floyd guys, there were a couple of kids reenacted what happened to Floyd, and that caused a big deal. And so there was a group of women, about 15 of them, who decided that they needed to start working on the issue of racism and how to do it. And they purchased an organization called Be the Bridge, and they stayed with it. And they're starting another group now, right after this, I think, starting in November. And so in the meantime, this group of women meet every week online and really talk about what more can we do. There was a lot of issue about this mask stuff. That's not the whole of the deal. But what they have done is they've reached out to children who don't have a lot of ability to do things. And in the summer, in August, this group of people, this especially young woman who has her kids go to school here, some of those are moved other places. But anyhow, she said there's a problem for kids of color have a very difficult time going to dance schools because it's expensive. And so these kids can't go dance and their parents can't get them there easily because not a lot of it takes place here. So they reached out and they got 17 kids who were Hispanic. And the young woman who did this wanted to do something for the kids who are Hispanic kids who cannot do this kind of thing. So they had 14 kids who signed up. They're using the space at St. Peter's School, Church because we have this big building that a lot of stuff can be there. So we said, great, come do here. So they did this for a week, and then they had a recital. And the recital was outdoors, and we had 35 people who came, not just parents, but people heard it was coming. And it was really great. The kids did great. And a couple of people handed over pretty high checks, said, keep doing this, it's really important. And to me, that's part of what Laga Vista has to look at. What are the things that are coming up in, and what can it do to make the community embrace everybody and not have this. I'm really sick of anything to do with voting for anything. I am so tired. But this is not what they're doing, what they're really doing. So I think that more things like this, where the younger people in our city say, here are some things that we need to do that'll make a difference for everybody. And I've been really awesome.
So I think what you're saying is you'd like to see some type of focus in the city on activities for youth and give them access to that?
Yeah.
And
not-
promote them?
And not just Girls Clubs or, you know, you can have the Boy Scouts and you can have the Girl Scouts and that kind of thing, but this is more making sure that kids of color are able to come into things as well. And often, who they don't have the finance behind it. And so, and I think there are a lot of people who would support it. I mean, right now, they're working on a grant to make this dance thing work better. And of course, this COVID has been, it's on and off and on and off, but ultimately it will be on. And I think that's right. I think we should take a look as a city, what are the opportunities for young families who are moving in to Laga Vista? And what is there available? And even for the young women. You know, they've created their own thing. I thought it was really impressive that they, you know, you get 17 women saying, we're going to make a difference in this community. It's pretty cool.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you, Robert. Yes.
I think the mayor had, at least a couple of years ago, had an,
Youth Advisory Committee.
yeah, and I'm not sure,
That ended.
it did, okay.
No one participated,
That's,
unfortunately.
need Robin on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was just a little early on it.
Yeah, he's getting ready to start that back up again on the
Good.
advisory.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And on what you said, I think in Laga you'd be a little bit more expansive if you just made it more of a economic, instead of focusing on color so much, focusing on the financial situation of those that are in the community. Because I'm sure there's a lot more people that are financially can't afford to do dance. My niece is a dancer, so.
Yeah, that was
And she's made it all the way to professional level, so. But she started out in a group that was like very diversified, so you want to keep it diversified. You don't want to make it a color thing.
Right.
Hispanic or black or,
Right.
okay, so keep that in mind.
Sure.
Thank you. Number 8, identify suitable locations within Laga Vista for commercial development and what types of businesses they may be able to support. We're not going to, I don't think, identify all of that today. But perhaps if I could suggest that what we keep this on the agenda, I think it's very important. We heard a few minutes ago that looking at areas in the city where we can have the different types of development. You know, we have light industrial, but we need heavy industrial. We have tech right here in our backyard. And tech needs air-conditioned space, not warehouse. They need air-conditioned commercial space. They need industrial space. What kind of zoning am I describing, Tracy? What's the actual name for that? Where you have a nice big, you go out 183A, and on the right, you've got hundreds of thousands of square feet of rentable office space and warehouse space that can be
Commercial?
just straight up commercial.
Sometimes it's commercial or it's low industrial,
low industrial.
depending. Yep.
And, you know, tying back to our topography, where would you put a 100,000 square foot warehouse in Laga Vista? I don't know that you can. But that's where that broadband internet comes in. There's a lot of people out
Yep.
here moving from the suburbs to the exurbs, which is what we are, and they need that ability to utilize 1,200 square foot garage or a 700 square foot garage, build it out. And anyway, I'll get off on all that, but identifying suitable locations within Laga Vista for commercial development. I feel like we need to have a conversation with Roy. I think we need to get our future land use map in the packet.
It sounded like, Eric, you were working on some GIS maps.
Right.
So maybe that's something that we talk about next time, right? I don't know if you're gonna have those maps by then.
Ultimately, planning and zoning, you know, they're the ones who are gonna make the most credentialed, if you will, recommendation to council. But I do feel like this committee has a place in that conversation. And,
Well, I think, kind of as Norma mentioned, is us being kind of a research arm and an extension of Eric and the, the team here at the city. Once we get an idea of what we're working with, can we go out and start maybe helping you identify potential targets that we'd like to bring into the city? Is there a way that we can divvy up that work that would bring in some people that would change the tax base of the city and lower some of our property tax rates?
I have a friend who deals in real estate, and he's telling me that they've been contacted by Tesla, and Elon wants residential housing out here, and there's some, I don't give away specifics, but there's some areas that crosses multiple Laga, Vista, and another jurisdiction, but, it's here, it's coming. We need to guide the growth, manage it. We need to zone some spacing. We need to set those setbacks, the requirements, and really take a look, I think, at our future land use map and try to enumerate what we want our vision to be going forward for commercial development and residential development. So in the interest of time, we're kind of running over our allotted time, but regarding number 8, is there anything, if you guys have any ideas for how to expound upon this, items to add into the packet for future meetings that we can look at and have additional discussion and figure out direction, I'd appreciate it if you send me an email. And don't hesitate, folks, when thinking about this, Roy will talk. He'll talk a lot. Sit down with him and pick his brain, go get educated first and bring some ideas. See what his input is. But if no other discussion, we can move on. Okay. Identify potential businesses that may be growing beyond their current location. Eric and Jennifer, they spoke about that a little earlier. Is there any additional discussion on that anyone would like to have? Tracy, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Meredith, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No additional discussion, guys?
I think we're waiting for a few avenues of data and information to open up to us. And then, like Brian is saying, I find myself in some places, if I go down a certain road, I may be adding a workload that there's not capacity for in terms of execution. And I'm very mindful of that because we are at a point where we really want to not push too hard without the council having the chance to really vet out, some future growth and possibilities and opportunities, and then we'll be able to come up and go, okay, let's support that, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Item number 11, send representatives to pitch Laga Vista to prospective businesses. We covered that, I think, already in
Yeah,
discussion.
pretty much need 8, 9, and 10 to happen first, so,
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah.
Okay, I don't know, Brian, if you guys, just so you know, if you're not aware, the reason you don't see future agenda items on our agenda anymore is it was just, you're not seeing on any of the city's agendas, commissions, committees, or council's agendas anymore. It's just not something we're supposed to talk about based on legal guidance. So if you have ideas, or,
State kind of has moved up on that.
yes, right, and we've, that's
So we need to
trickled
pay
down.
attention to that and appreciate the guidance. Yeah.
So please, though, but if you do have ideas, feel free to email one another, not the group, but, talk to pick someone to talk to, discuss it, forward it to me, and we'll get it on the agenda.
Paul, if I can add a
Certainly.
comment on that, because as I was working on this current agenda, I caught myself realizing that I've kind of fallen into this habit. We spend a lot of time at the beginning of the year developing a work plan with specific objectives, and I think we've kind of lost sight of that work plan. I'm not saying that virtually every item on here in one way or another doesn't fit in there, but in terms of structure, I think the committee probably needs to take a step back and look at the work plan and organize our efforts along those lines.
And if we don't like something, we can change the work
Then we
plan.
can change the work
Absolutely.
plan. Yeah.
Agreed. So, I can't talk about it beyond that. So,
Me either.
Yeah, but that was very good. So, okay.
Similar thoughts have been out there, and I'll just say that once elections and things are settled, that I'll reach out.
Yes, we're at that point kind of, as Mr. Williams noted, this may be the last meeting. But I don't know, I think just the way the calendar works, if I recall last year, I think the council wasn't, the canvassing and the new council wasn't seated until maybe it was November 16th or 21st.
Yeah, but I'm having, one of the reasons why I'm saying, November 1st, I'm having replacement knee surgery.
I see,
So-
okay.
So I wasn't sure whether I could
Got it.
make that next meeting.
Understood.
Depending on when it falls.
But we are, to Norma's point, we are in that lull, kind of, let's, it's kind of like on the long-term plan, and I think between for the city expansions, you start looking into the financing options, bond packages, things like that. That's going to be a task for the next council. So,
I'd like to say that I appreciate all your crazy things that you send every day.
oh, you like all those charts?
I do, I look at them, and I learn something from them. Every once in a while, I think,
Do you get my charts?
Ditto them,
You need my
That's
charts.
wonderful.
They're very insightful. So for disclosure, if you guys are interested, I get a daily, it's unbelievable. I get it to the Wall Street Journal. It's called the Daily Shot. It's a subscription-based thing.
Right.
And the Daily Shot, it covers everything, regions of the world and stuff. So if you really want to dive into it. So with that, if there's nothing else, if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn, we may do so.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion is passed.
Adios.
All right. I will drop this off.
I was gonna say, or can Eric give us a